everyone, and welcome to our Self-Love and More sessions. Today, we'll be discussing the importance of checking up on all of your friends, and we'll also be talking about why you need to make sure that it goes both ways, and also why doing it is very important. Anyone like to go first?
I can start. I was thinking, like we talked about earlier with some of you here, that we are having a pandemic, and we know that there's a lot of people who are isolated, a lot of people who are not able to talk to others. So we are in situations where we need to have our friends check up on us. And I'm thinking that sometimes we might be the ones that people are always telling their problems to. I'm not feeling well or whatever, and I call my friend a particular one, and I tell them what's bothering me, and the friend is always there. Oh, how are you? Checking up on you. But I think we should ask ourselves, are we ourselves checking up on our friends, or is it a one-way street where you get to burden yourself to your friend constantly, maybe every day or every week, I don't know. And then when you actually forget to ask your friend, by the way, how are you doing? I think that's something that can easily happen, especially when that friend is always the one who's like the listener. We might actually forget to ask about how they are doing. So what we need to remember is that in the end, you're burdening somebody with all these things, but you yourself are not giving back. We need to give back, because a friendship it's not one way, it goes both ways. And a true friendship cannot actually last if it's always one way, only always the same person giving. We need to give back. If we need to maintain these friendships, especially in these pandemic times, we need to give back. Think when we finish the session, maybe I should, or about this friend of mine, how are they doing? When the last time I called them to ask how they are doing? Or is it always me calling? Oh, I need this, or I have this, oh, my family, my friend, my mother, my sister, my what have you. But are you checking up on your friend, or are you always burdening yourself to your friends while you yourself don't give back? We need to really, really think about that. We all know we've been with people like that, who always constantly telling you their problems, but you notice the person is never asking, by the way, how are you? In the end, you get tired.
Yeah.
It's human, you get tired.
Yeah, I understand that. And I do think that when you're consistently like telling someone your issues, that can also affect their mental health, because they're not able to get off their back what they're feeling. So they're getting all your emotions on top of their emotions, and then they end up being in a worse place than you were when you were expressing what your issues are in your life. So yeah. Chico, I saw your hand up before.
Um, I wanted to just add that it's not always about someone ringing one person and saying a lot. There's also just people who maybe don't express how they're feeling. And so it's not that anyone is burdening anyone. It's just that because they don't talk about how they're feeling, you don't really get to hear how they are, and it's not really your fault. It's just that maybe that person doesn't share, and that's why I think we have this session to be more conscious of maybe people who don't usually share with us. And I was thinking when Jamila, when you showed me that post from Instagram, I don't know if you have the post to share with us.
Ooh.
Anyway, it's a post Jamila saw on Instagram that said something like, are you checking up on your strong friends? Are you checking up on your funny friends? Are you checking up on your quiet friends? So all those kind of people who you usually don't worry about or you don't think about, like somebody who's a joker and a comedian, and we think they're always happy, we could actually forget to see, are they okay? Or do we just assume that they're happy because they're a comedian, they take everything well, they're always positive, so they're fine. Or maybe somebody who's very quiet, and because they're quiet, you think they have no problems. So in addition to what Kiriko said about us being mindful that we're not just the ones who are always sharing our problems, I think it's also reflecting on those people who you don't normally think you need to check up on because they're strong or they're funny or they're quiet for whatever reason.
Yeah. There was this quote that I found on the internet, and it actually said that people who need help sometimes look a lot like people who don't need help. So you might think that they're fine, but they're using their jokes or their seriousness or them being, closed up as a front, even though behind all that they're very, very emotional people, or they're going through something really tough, and you just don't know because they put on this exterior that no one can see through. Shiro, yeah?
Yes, I was going to say that it's also important to note that we have different personalities that people have. We have introverts and extroverts. Extroverts share. That's how they get their energy. If they have a problem, they happily share with someone else, and that's how they get help. While introverts withdraw and internalize their problems. So it's very easy for people not to remember to ask them how they are. They might even be the ones who are the good listeners, who we never think that they might need a listening ear too. So we also need to check up on them.
Yeah, I believe that that's one of the main points of this. It's like you said, people who are the listeners, they listen, and you might not notice that, but I think that a lot of people need to learn how to notice it, because sometimes it can get by from like your eye. You don't notice it. Someone's just quiet and they're just watching you talk to them, and I'm one of those people. I'm a listener. But sometimes when it gets too much, I have to also express myself. So I also think it's important for the listener to be able to say, um, I I have issues right now, and I might not be able to listen to all of your issues because it could affect me as well. I think that's why it should go both ways. So yeah, Shamsa, you wanted to say?
Yeah. Yeah, it's very important to, sometimes to check friends, not only your good or close friends or your happy friends, but sometimes your casual friends you need to check sometimes, because sometimes they cross your mind. If they cross your mind, you should immediately text them or ask them, is everything okay with you? I remember I have a very good friend, and like he was not closest friend, but a casual friend. And I was not in contact with him like for 1 month or two. Suddenly he crossed my mind that where he's gone. I text him that, is everything okay with you? And then he replied, my mother died 2 months ago, that's why I'm not sending text or everything. So I felt very guilty, like I was not in touch with him, and he was struggling with that. He had a hard time, and so it's very important to check occasionally. You can offer them any service, whatever you can. You can sometimes listen. You can give sometime advice, because sometimes people are not that they are introvert, not extrovert, or sometimes they're very shy to express their feelings or express their sorrow or grief, or they don't want to tell you first. If you ask them, they will tell you. So it's it's like both ways, but as a friend you need to, sometimes you can offer any service to them, like if you are going somewhere, or your friend can't go there, you can call them and ask, I'm going, like for example, I'm going to Tesco, and if you I was thinking about you, if you need something I can buy for you if you can't go, like in this pandemic situation. That's very good, and good gesture.
Yeah. It's also important to keep up on casual friends because they might not actually have close friends or even family to talk to. So you could actually help them out a lot by talking to them, and they'd be very surprised because they'd be like, oh, we're just casual friends. And maybe you could even develop an actual friendship from that. Shakira, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I also feel like there are those people that, like myself, have no problem sharing, like if I have an issue, but sometimes might forget that they do have some people in their lives that would be willing to listen to them and try to comfort them no matter what time it is. And I feel like there are probably some people out there who might be having like, I don't know, a breakdown at like 2 o'clock in the morning and just forget that there are people out there that they could reach out to write to, that would be able to listen to them. Like we should also consider that, because I guess I don't consider that myself. Like reaching out to friends and seeing if they're okay no matter what time it is, just if I have a gut feeling, I guess.
Thank you for that. Yeah. I understand what you mean, where you forget that there's other people you can talk to. But that's why it's important for everyone to check up on each other, because if you forget that there's people that can actually talk to you about it, they can come to you and be like, are you okay? And then you'd be like, oh yeah, and then tell them what's on your mind. Marie Claire?
Thanks, Shakira. There is actually few things that comes in my mind when I think about this topic. Obviously, the previous participant touched on this one, that it's very important that we check up on our friends, whether they are best friends and people work with, and people we know, even if people in this group because we meet regularly. But this also goes with the family. I think checking up on the members of our family. And yeah, I think Ciiku said something which I agree. Personally, I think those who always listen, whether it's your job or it's your nature, people always think that because you listen, you actually don't need someone to listen to you, because there is this image around you that people get that you're strong. But actually, that doesn't mean that even if you give it that image that you're strong, that doesn't mean that you don't have a problem. You don't want someone who can listen to. Even counselors had to have a counselor themselves. That's how we work. So definitely guilty as charged. I think it's something I have to remember, that people strong always need someone to listen up to. I think another thing, listen, taking time to check on someone, it doesn't have to be every day. It doesn't have to be once in a while. It only takes actually a minute to send a message. Even if you don't have a time to call someone, you can send a text, and that really doesn't take a time. And as Kirigo, I think it's Keshi who said it previously, I think mentioned more than ever, actually people really needed to check up on each other because of this pandemic. People are alone. And those who we work with, especially in the Four Wings, who know we don't have even families here. Thank God we have WhatsApp groups that we send a message to each other. And thanks so much, Jamila. It is something myself I'm gonna have to reflect at. So it's quite a complex topic, but can make definitely a huge difference when you you develop a good habit on checking up on all your friends and families.
Yeah. Like you said before, I really resonated with it, is that it doesn't even have to take that long to check up on someone, because that other person might not actually want to talk a lot about it, but they just want to feel like someone is asking them if they're okay. And that can go a long way with those type of people who feel that they're keeping everything in, even though they don't want to tell all of their problems to someone. It's nice that someone has asked in the first place. Keshi?
Yeah, two things. Like you said, Jamila, there are some people actually who don't like sharing what they are going through, and they feel like people are being overbearing when they are asking, are you okay, like this. But I think in such a case, like you said, it's just important to let people know that we are thinking about them, we care about them. You may not want to share what you're going through, but we are here. I'm here for you. I'm here for you if you ever need to talk, and I'm thinking about you. That makes people feel happy that there's someone who cares, even if they don't want to share what they are going through.
Yeah.
And then something else I wanted to say is about listening and paying attention. Sometimes people do say how they are feeling, and if they are down or they need encouragement, and there are others who say it, but they don't say it by verbally, but they may say it by actions. Maybe they keep away from certain groups or discussions, or they're not talking much, they're not saying much. So in this way, they are actually saying something to us. So when we pay attention to maybe people are different, they're behaving differently, then we can be able to see how we can help. We can ask them if they need someone to talk to, but it requires that we pay attention, because if I'm talking to you and you ask me, Keshi, how are you feeling? Oh, so, and then you move on and yeah, it was so much fun. And you talk about something else. You didn't really listen. And maybe I just needed a little prodding. I just needed someone to push me a little for me to share how I'm feeling. So it's good to pay attention and then act when we pay attention.
Yeah, I think that makes sense as well, because that person might be telling you and you're actually not listening properly to the actual issue, and you just brush it away thinking, oh, they're fine. They're, like we said, the strong friend or the happy friend. The issue is probably not that deep. They probably okay inside, but in reality, they're really not, and it's a basically a cry for help. So yeah. Anyone else would like to say? Shiro?
I was just thinking about what you had said earlier about people who may look happy, they may even make jokes. I just remembered the late actor Robin Williams.
Yeah.
He was a favorite of so many. He made people laugh. And when he committed suicide, people struggled to understand how could Robin Williams, who made people happy and laugh, commit suicide. And apparently he was suffering from depression and anxiety, and perhaps also the diagnosis of Parkinson's disease contributed to that. But no one could ever imagine that he was depressed. So someone may put on a front, a face that can deceive you, and they're actually suffering inside. Only later on for us to realize that when it's too late. But it requires a very special skill, maybe, to even discern that, because it's not easy to know.
Yeah. And that kind of brings on one of the questions, why it's important to help, why doing this can help, because there could be someone very close to doing something to themselves, committing suicide or something, because no one has ever checked up on them, thinking that they're okay. So if you think about this every time you ask a friend how they're doing, yeah, Jose, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, yes, thank you. What a good coincidence. Today, our message from church was, how are you checking your loved ones? So it's a very good coincidence. And they were encouraging us not to check on our loved ones by only texting. You can also make a short video call just to check how they're doing. And because people tend only to text when they are checking on their loved ones. Anyway, going back to our topic, when you said about this topic, have been thinking how I always check on people, but and then I was asking myself, am I too nice to people to keep checking on them, and no one is having that courage to check on me. It's so hard when you start thinking that you want to change your personality just because you see how people respond to you. And the other thing that I want to mention, people use the other thing that people use as an excuse. You just ask them, how are you doing? You are not it has been so long, you don't I mean so long, you're not checking on me. And then they'll be like, but I saw you posting pictures on let's say social media, Facebook or Instagram. And then they will be like, yeah, if I see you posting something means you are okay. But you are not. For me, posting, I can post a picture that I took after crying. You don't know. So it's good when I think that's from when you've got best friends. Obviously, best friends are best friends, but we've got you've got one or two best friends. You are not having, everybody's not your best friend. So those other friends, I think those are the ones who have to check if we are really checking on each other. Otherwise, as you say, there is always one person who is checking on other people, and then when those other people don't really check on you, it's so much discouraging. Yeah, this topic came really at the time when I was thinking, am I being too nice to people? Yeah, so that's it's so hard, but I wish everyone can have that heart of checking on another person who usually asks, how are you doing? And yeah,
Yeah,
that's why.
I agree because I think a lot of people honest, and then look around and look at other people um to see if they're okay, because sometimes there's people who just talk and they don't actually know or they've never learned that it actually, a conversation is both ways. A conversation is not you speaking at someone. That sounds like a lecture, or you're telling someone something without actually engaging in a real conversation. Maggie, you wanted to say something?
About checking on people, I know I'm guilty of that. I'm one person who is quiet, and I know sometimes I need to check on people. But again, being an introvert, I know it can be hard for us because we are good listeners. And that if you want to shut them out, start with your problem. Even if they have something to tell you, they will tell you. They just keep quiet and they listen to you. So that is an introvert, the way they are. So people is actually something good. Again, there are people who are gifted. Actually, a text cannot tell of how somebody feels. But if you listen to the voice, there's a way you can listen to the voice and understand if that person is having a problem or if that person is happy. So sometimes one can just say, hi, how are you? How are you doing? But maybe they're not okay. So I think checking on somebody okay, the topic says it's a nice thing. One or two friends, you can actually call them, find out how they are doing, because there are people who have the heavy tongue. They cannot tell about themselves unless you push them. Unless, because if someone tells you, how are you? I'm fine. So sometimes you can say, oh, I don't see you. You don't look fine to me. If there's something you can share. So actually, you are not pushing, but you're just requesting. If they have something they can share, if they feel they're okay to share, they can share it with you. If they don't trust you enough to share, it's okay. But at least you've shown concern that you are ready to listen. So I think from now on, we should actually make an effort to see how we can actually on each other to find out, because sometimes you can assume thinking that someone is well. Like now, if I look at Shiko's face, she doesn't look fine. To me, I see she's not the usual, the Shiko I know. So I can know maybe she's not ready to share, but I can try. If she has something to share, she can share with me. If she's not ready, it's okay. And wait for another time. So I think it's also good to read somebody's face, somebody's voice, to understand if that person is really okay when they tell you they are okay.
Yeah. I think this discussion is really good because it opens everyone's eyes and then they can look back on themselves and see if they can do it, because most people don't actually think about it, because it's happened to probably all of us where we feel like we're talking to someone and they're only talking about how they're feeling and they don't ask you the same question back. So I think it needs to be spread across the world, this message, so people can understand that everyone needs to check up on each other. Otherwise, it could be very serious things. Like, for example, Robin Williams, no one saw that coming at all. Or Mac Miller, for example, a musician, he was always happy, and he rapped all the time and he was a very positive person. And then they find out that he actually committed suicide. So, yeah. Gary, you wanted to say a few words?
Yeah, very interesting theme, very interesting conversation. What resonated within me is perhaps how to rather than the frequency. And yeah, it's not as simple for me as black and white, as one person receiving and the other one. It's I think. If we allow ourselves the space to meet another human being, it's more complex than that. It's if we allow that dialogical conversation, that being with the other to take place, then I think it's beneficial for both the person who checks and the person who. So it's not a receiver and the in the giver as yeah. Yeah, it's more complex than that. I'm just really inspired by um, the way people relate to each other in different countries and what the norm is, and in how perhaps in contemporary way of living we've distanced ourselves from each other as much, in the need to go back to our roots and to really get inspired by the way people take care of each other in that communal way of being, which is more fluid than what yeah than just one person checking. It's more fluid, it's more frequent, it's more of a dance rather than um doing that as a but yeah, how do we adapt this to modern living? And yeah, for me, another thing that resonated is intuition, and working with intuition, and checking, opening that space to not just say how are you, but listen, and to give that space and frame experiencing with the other really come from a very empathetic heart level to be with another is perhaps something that's healing and um, brings about change that you're talking about, Mila, and everybody else. That's so much needed. I think it's in the quality of what we offer rather than being it just done by an individual act of checking in. Yeah, so those are my thoughts. Very guilty for not checking in with people. Uh, so yeah, it's a good reminder. Um, yeah, and yeah, I wanna say how good it is that um, you've opened the space and you're giving each other this checking in. So it's great to learn from you. It's great to hear you and your story.
Thank you. One of your points that you said was we need to go back and maybe, connect more with how, like, our roots, how we were as people in the beginning, because it reminded me of this show that I watched. It was about health, actually, and it was they went to Italy, which is one of the points. Some part of Italy, a little town, was one of the blue points, I think it was, in the world where people live the longest. And they say one of the reasons of that could be because they all check up on each other, and all of their worries, they can talk to other people about it. So they're not burdened with personal issues, and everyone knows everyone, and everyone knows everything about each other, and that they say that can actually help increase, how long you live in life. And I think that's very important, and I think in the West especially, that is not practiced at all. People don't check up on each other. Their parents get old, they just take them to a home and then they don't check up on them. And that's why we've got a lower rate in, like, lifespans. So yeah, thanks for bringing up that point. Does anyone else want to add anything? Keshi?
Yeah, I wanted to say that the cultural aspect that was mentioned by you and Gary is actually a very important thing to remember, because we have cultures that are they are much individualistic, and others they are how can I say, they are less they are collectivist cultures where people interpersonal relations are different. For example, living here in Denmark, the culture is individualistic, even if we have a kind of socialistic government where the government is taking care of people's needs and so on. But interpersonal relationships are very individualistic. People don't just come by like they do in Kenya, for example, where a neighbor, a friend just comes by without ringing and comes up to check on you. So here it's different. And now that we are living in this culture, I'm living in this culture. Personally, people say I'm a close person, but not really. But when I'm living here in Denmark, I really enjoy this thing that people just don't pass by me without calling or without giving me a warning to come and check on me. So that really goes on well with my personality. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that people shouldn't check on me. So, I mean, it's this play of culture, this cultural thing, and also this that people come from different contexts where checking up would be viewed in different ways. So we also have to take that into consideration. But at the same time, I was thinking it shouldn't have to end up like the cases you have mentioned, like Robin Williams, or this British lady, I'm sure you all know her, Joyce Carol Vincent, who was found after 2 years. Her corpse was found in her apartment. She'd been dead for 2 years and nobody noticed. So you wonder, what could people have done? she had isolated herself from her family. She had cut contact. How can someone check up on such a person? That's now a question to all of you. How do you check up on a person who isolates themselves from other people and cuts contact? What can one do? It's a ball. The ball is in your court now.
So that's, I think, a very difficult situation. If someone doesn't want to speak about their issues, that's why even, in the communities, like for example in Kenya or in Italy or even in Spain, where just neighbors check up on you, those people might, if you actually frequently checked up on someone and then one time they just didn't turn up, they didn't leave their house or anything like that, then that would worry a person and they'd be like, I don't think she's okay, something might have happened to her. But it's the fact that no one bothered to check up on her, not even her neighbors or anything, because she was in an apartment as well. So I think it's also about us all checking up on people. If we live in an apartment or an accommodation, if we have neighbors close to us, not neighbors who are like on the 5th floor going all up and down for that, but someone who's just next door to you, just knock and say, hi, are you okay? Your post is being left outside the door, because I'm pretty sure stuff like that would have I don't know, sparked people's suspicions to see if she's okay or if she's left or something. Anyone else? Marie-Claire?
Yeah, it's actually many questions came in my mind after listening to Gary and Keshi. It's something I know that this topic involves someone who is really a good listener and requires someone who have like empathy. But I think it's more a question actually I would like to ask. Obviously, do you think being a listener, it's a gift or it's something which someone has to develop? You can develop, because obviously, as the previous people said, definitely there is a culture perceptive in this, because when you live in Africa, where I lived, as Keshi said, naturally people check on each other. But having said that, Keshi, it has actually changed because of the leaving people busy. I don't think they do it as much as they used to do when we were young. Probably with the safety, it has so many things probably to prevent happening as it used to. But naturally, I think I'm a good listener. But since I started really living in the UK, as Gary said, with the life or wherever the life we live in, you're quite busy. It's more individualism than checking. Do you think, ladies, it's something, no matter how much we can talk about it, something which comes with being gifted? With that, actually, I would like to think it's a quality that people who are gifted with being a good listener and, with empathy probably check on people more than other who don't have those quality would do. I'm just thinking, I want to know why you think about that.
Yes, Karigo, I think you want to add something to what Marie-Claire said.
Yeah, for me, I'm thinking this. You're saying that maybe it's a quality people have, that they are able to check up on people. All I can say is that if you feel you don't have that quality with your friends, then you need to cultivate it.
Definitely.
For me, I feel nobody has an excuse for saying, oh, I'm not that kind of person. Whatever excuse you can come up with, we can maybe, for those who are Christians, remember what Jesus said, do unto others what you want them to do to you, which means that you want to be able that they check up on you. you have to be able to force yourself to cultivate that gift, if you can call it, of doing the same thing back, giving back to people. And obviously, when people talk to us about their problems, of course, we don't say it's burdening, not really, but it's human nature that if you're constantly being told by the same person different problems and whatever, and they never give themselves to you to ask you how you are and how you're dealing with whatever issues you might have, because everybody has an issue sometimes. So if you don't do that, you have to understand that the person will eventually get tired. It's human nature. No matter how much you think it's my friend, la la, in the end you'll just feel, yeah, I'm always checking up on them. They never check up on me. So we need to pull up our socks, and whether we have that gift or not, we need to cultivate it and check up on those people.
I think that's a good message to tell people so they know that you need to check up on your friends. Ciiku would like to say a few words.
Okay, I just wanted to respond to Marie Claire's comments and Kirigo, and maybe one more point. I think it's in tune with what Gary said earlier. This kind of interaction is fluid and it's like a dance, and you don't want to do a solo dance. So if it's meant to be conversational, then whatever your skills are, if you are talking to somebody who's a friend or an acquaintance and they're asking how you are and there's a conversation going, then it's just good to train ourselves to also ask the other person how they're doing. That's personal development. It's not a rocket science. It's not something that if you don't have, you can't learn. If we want to develop ourselves, our personal development, and we feel it's important but hard, we can still try do it. I also wanted to talk about cultures because we spoke about cultures, and I'm going to look at the perspective of the social media culture. Jose mentioned it a bit, and she said some people say, well, she looked happy on that social media post. And we all know this. We all know so many people present their lives as amazing and perfect on social media. It doesn't mean that's the reality. So, and it doesn't give us an excuse, especially as a friend, to say they seem okay. And it just reminds me of a program, a documentary I watched the other day. I don't know if you people have seen it on Netflix. It's called American Murder or something. This lady who was kidnapped and murdered by her husband, and everyone thought she had the perfect life because she was a social media person, and she always posted pictures of my loving husband, blah blah blah, happy family. So nobody thought of actually what was going on behind the scenes. So when he killed her and murdered her and got rid of her body, nobody really at the first instance look at the husband, because what was presented was how perfect and happy they were. So let's look beyond social media and the front people put, like Robin Williams. He was comedian, or Mac Miller just rapping and looking like he's having the time of his life. We need to be able to try and look behind that, and if we really do care about some people in our lives, to actually check and see if they're really okay.
And Kashi?
Yeah, I just want to say regarding that example Ciiku made of the documentary on Netflix about that woman, is that actually a friend checking up on her is what made them realize that she had disappeared. Because the friend called and she didn't respond several times, and then she went to her home and she didn't find her and called the police. So you can see that checking up can actually, it can lead to things being discovered, not like the lady who had to stay in her apartment for 2 years without anyone finding out. But this very case, somebody checked up on her and the case went from there. So it's important to check up on people. We don't know what's happening. And if somebody doesn't respond, and she usually does, ask yourself why. And maybe you need to go there physically to check what's wrong if the person is not responding, who usually responds, and you know that person well.
Wanted to say two things, that today is International Day of the Girl. Just remember that, International Day of the Girl.
Oh.
And it was started by the UN to acknowledge that many times young girls don't have the same opportunities as young boys. And actually, this is true in a lot of countries. We were having a session the other day, and one of the women shared she was removed from school by her parents at a young age because girls' education is not seen as a priority. It was time for her to be a worker or a wife or whatever, I don't know. For whatever reason, she was very young. She was taken out of school. And also just gender practices that harm girls and rape within families, domestic abuse. So it's just a day to remember the girl child. And I know Shiro has in the past spoken about the boy child is being put to the back these days. But you know what? The boys across all communities, maybe not the West as much, but at least in the other, I want to say developing, this the other countries, the boys will always get the opportunities first. If it's education, they're the ones who will get the opportunity first. So I think we should just think about the girl child today and celebrate the girl child. Another thing I want to say is we have a crowdfunder on right now. Please support if you can, even though it's £2 or whatever. We just need some numbers, you know, because it's psychology. When people see a project that's being funded, they want to contribute. If they see only one person is supporting, move on. So we really need your support. The crowdfunder has been extended till December 16th. So we have a long time to just get some support. The crowdfunder is for Zumba sessions, which you can also join. So giving a $5 to join several Zumba sessions is a good deal, I think. So if you just Google Aviva 4 Wings Zumba class or Google 4 Wings Zumba class, you'll be taken to either crowdfunder or Aviva, which are both secure sites. It's not a scam. The secure site, you'll see a padlock on the address bar, meaning it's a secure site. Please support us if you can to raise this money for the Zumba classes. The next session we'll have, which is not this Sunday, but the following one, is it's Black History Month in the UK in October. So for those who don't know what Black History Month is about, it's just a time to look at historical figures and current figures in Black history, because it's not taught in school, and what's taught is just about slaves, like Black people just being seen as they were slaves. But there's a lot of contributions that have come from Black people in the UK and other parts of the world. So we'll be talking about that in a couple of weeks. And Jamila had some questions. She's good at these questions. So one is, you know, any historical figure, a Black person who invented something that you didn't know, and then you found out, oh, it was a Black person, or about stereotypes of Black people, things people think about Black people. We're just being honest. This is not a racial conversation. It's just sort of eye-opening and people learning maybe some things even maybe we didn't know about our own history. So in a couple of weeks, we'll be doing that. I don't know if anyone wants to share anything.
I wanted to just to say something personally. Actually, this thing of listening, I realized something. Actually, one of us said something in a session, we didn't pick it up. I think it's very important that we actually, when we join this, as Maggie said as well, they can look at someone and realize they are not okay. I think it's something really personally, I think I need to listen, not hear, proper listen. So, yeah, I think that's what I want to say.
Thank you, Marie Claire. I think we all had some self-reflection to do today. Yeah, and if I can share as well, personally, I don't like phone calls. I really do not like to be on the phone. I don't like it. I like, if I'm on the phone, I need a purpose. This is why I'm calling. It's discussed, it's done. So, and I know there's some of my friends who like to be on the phone. So it also made me think, as much as it makes me feel uncomfortable, maybe I can also, do a little sacrifice or whatever, not sacrifice, just know what I mean. Even though
Yeah.
enjoy it, just make effort because it could help someone. Just like I would like maybe to be checked on once in a while. So it's about self-reflection. Anyone else want to add anything? Yes, Shira.
Did I see Sonia? Sonia haven't said something.
I just feel that this COVID is a good time to test a good friend or fake friend. So I think it's a good chance to know it earlier than later. So thank goodness I use this chance to.
But thank you so much for sharing. You said that this is the time where you can know who are the real friends and who are.
Yeah.
So thanks for that. Yeah, we need to ask ourselves that question. Yeah, so it's not just about other people. We need to also ask ourselves, are we being true friends? Like we said, it's two-way. And during this very difficult time, it's so important that we have people where we can support each other. Thank you, Sonia, and thanks for joining. It's nice to see you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Shiro, how about you? You wanted to say something before and then we can wrap up?
It was a similar point because of what Keshi had talked about, the lady in the UK who was dead for 2 years before being found. And people are wondering what about her family. But when you read the story, you find that she had cut herself away from her family and friends. She had quit her job. So I was just thinking, as much as we need to check up on others, we also have a responsibility. It has to be two-way. It can't just be one way, because if you call someone a couple of times and they don't respond, and they actually maybe even let you know that they want to be by themselves, what really more can you do for them? So we also have a responsibility to respond when people want to communicate or to keep in touch with us. It doesn't have to be every day, but at least regularly, so that at least they can know what's happening with us, even if we don't want them, like maybe we want to be by ourselves, but at least give them some opportunity so that they can relax and know that we are okay, even though we want to be by ourselves.
Yeah, thanks, Shiro. That's actually a very good point, because just conversely, just the same as somebody could get tired of always listening to you, also people can get tired of asking someone, are you okay, and getting no response, or like a wall every time, because at the end of the day, we're not all trained therapists. Maybe a therapist can dig and keep digging and digging, but sometimes people ask and then get nothing back. Like you say, if that lady cut off her family and they tried to find ways to get in contact, they did what they could. So I think as long as you know you've done what you could, and also we ourselves, we need to recognize that we have a part to play. Again, back to what Gary said, it's both ways. It's not just a one-way give or receive. Everyone has a part to play in any relationship, actually. So, guys, are you okay with us wrapping up now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very much for joining us today. It was a very thought-provoking session. I hope we've all, learned something. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. Everyone had something to bring to the table, which was good. And I think we all agreed, nobody's perfect. We all have something we can learn from today. So join us in a couple of weeks for our next topic. Remember the Girl Child, remember Mental Health Week, and remember our crowdfunder.
Okay.
We will leave the link to the crowdfunder in the description of the YouTube video. So if you feel like you want to go and check out the page, we've got a great video there about 4Wings and the work we do. And then, support us if you can, or at least share the project. Thank you so much.